get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride, ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. Greg Soulje is back with us here on this Friday. Welcome, Greg.
And a happy Friday to you, Sarah, and one and all out there on one of the last, at least the shorter term, nice mild days across the Corn Belt. But folks who want some rain, you're going to get some rain. And we'll talk about that, and there'll be a little more October feel going forward. But we'll touch base on that and other things here in a quick little update at the end portion of the week.
Very good. And of course, we want to recognize our weather segment sponsor, Strauss Workwear. It's a family-owned global company in its third generation. They design, manufacture technical workwear and footwear for farmers, builders, and craftsmen. It's a tool you wear. So, Greg, you can tell us about a little rain. Let's fill us in. What's
Yes.
ahead? What do we have to look forward to, I guess?
Well, yeah, some rain that'll come out of the eastern and southern plains and across a good chunk of the Corn Belt going forward here as we move on through the next several days. And the overall weather pattern continues to be that of kind of the headline story here. That's kind of a quick snapshot of how Saturday will look with cooler, windier weather, a little more October, early November feel onto the northern plains. And by the time you wake up so tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, this will be the story with an expanding area of rain shower and thunderstorm activity. It'll get going in bits and pieces this afternoon over the southeastern plains and the far southwestern Corn Belt. And then probably tomorrow afternoon, I-70 corridor on southward, maybe a couple of stronger storms and some of those weekend but still rain-wrapped features will work northward. And so the maps and charts, the models, if you buy into them, are all over creation from anywhere between a half inch on the skimpy side to 2 or 3 on the higher side. So our guesstimation here would be somewhere 3/4 to about a bucket or quarter over a pretty broad area from Michigan southward into eastern Oklahoma. We'll take a look at those numbers here in just a bit. But overall, as we move on through this afternoon, that is the story that gets going into the western Corn Belt areas, into the southeastern plains. A nice day underway, increasing south wind with the temperatures still at more or less September levels into parts of the Corn Belt. And again, cooler air on the move out of that frontal system coming through Big Sky Country and points on south and eastward. So that is the story. And by the time, as we had made mention of, there is the widespread and increasing shower thunderstorm activity tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, a couple of showers still across the Dakotas out towards the Black Hills and points on westward. Snow levels down to about maybe 5,000-6,000 feet. So heads up livestock operations, more or less because of the chill and maybe some wet hides, and the temperatures that'll be down in the 30s and only make it into the 40s during the course of the afternoon hours. Look at how those rains tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, explode and expand Michigan, Illinois, southward, all the way down to Bayou Country. And boy, if it were maybe a November 17th as opposed to October 17th, and we didn't get this early and often and well ahead of schedule, and don't have any solid numbers. USDA folks at their weather service, they're just don't have the crop reports being on hiatus. But from our chat with radio people across the country, yeah, we are in relatively fast shape, a little bit slower, a little bit lesser numbers from what we hear in the west and northwestern reaches of Iowa. Back into Nebraska, they had some issues during the summertime season, mid-summertime to late summertime with rainfall there. And of course, it was the lack of rainfall in the eastern and southern Corn Belt. And we'll make amends. We won't end the drought. We'll take a look at the monitor in just a second. But a nice break of the combine here, speed of late, and we'll get some rainfall. And this is not the end of opportunities to be out there with harvest operations in mind. By tomorrow afternoon and evening, 2 systems. We're going to begin a significant pattern shift in the Pacific Northwest and Big Sky. We'll touch on that in just a minute. But those lines wrapped around that low through Michigan, those are the isobars. The tighter packed they are, the windier it is. So the winds pick up in the eastern Corn Belt. They shift to the west-northwest in the Lakes region and western Corn Belt, and it will be a decidingly more for October field by Sunday morning in the Western Corn Belt. And still those rains are lingering for Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Again, over the next 48 hours, you can see a pretty good stripe running from about areas of just west of the thumb area of Michigan down to and around maybe Covington, Indiana, Danville, Tuscola, from there southward to maybe St. Charles outside of Missouri, or St. Louis, Missouri, and southward from there. That is a stripe of, generally speaking, inch and a half to inch and 3/4 inch totals, and then more in the way of a rainfall for the lower Mississippi Valley Delta region. The rain's backing up as you get into the Western Corn Belt area. So it'll be probably some fairly quick development overhead, if you will, the way we call it, in that corridor across Missouri, Illinois, Michigan during the course of Saturday late morning and afternoon. So you line up that rainfall, and there is the drought monitor from Thursday. And yeah, some teleconnection of those red areas. That red area is a D4 or extreme drought, northwest Ohio, across a good part of Indiana, east central Illinois, and again, some pickup through the Ozarks, worsting in the southeast. Why? The hot ridge and no tropical systems this year. Boy, that was a busted forecast from people that tagged onto that. And we just here on our broadcast here kept talking about, no, just don't think it's going to happen. Here's what's going on. Why? And it's going to be kind of just off the charts, as in much quieter tropical weather season, which is good news as well. But those rains do carry a factor. They are needed this time of the year in the southeast and mid-Atlantic region, where the drought is worsting there. Still in pretty tough shape over the northeast New England. You can see some of these areas of the Ohio Valley that did see improvement about 2 weeks ago from some organized rainfall. The Western Corn Belt, west and south of the Twins, especially in good shape. So, this time of the year, it's a juggling act. Got to get moisture in. Those winter wheat fields need it in the plains, southern Midwest, and winter wheat areas as well. But you got harvest, you got cool soils down. You're going to get anhydrous down, but you want to worry about compaction issues where those ruts firm and freeze up. So you're kind of doing a juggling act. So for now, we're going to just tap the brakes a little bit. But again, another window of opportunity. We'll talk about that in greater detail on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness, that 4-week forecast. And you can always go to the Feedstuffs 365 site and click down. I think it's in the agribusiness area. You can see our live stream from last Wednesday and these updated outlooks as well, when you can kind of plan and see where things transition here into a better outdoor work scene coming off the weekend rainfall. And there it is, the significant rain here over the back end of the weekend through Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, the northeast New England. So the areas that really need it are going to get it. So, we're going to idle things up, but we're kind of really checking off 2 boxes here. We're in great shape with harvest, generally speaking, and we'll get some moisture going. And the outbreaks of moisture, again, are going to be slow to get going. The pattern is evolving into a more progressive one as the tropics quiet down. Speaking of the tropics, a little something in the Western Atlantic. There's another feature or two coming across the equatorial areas of the South Atlantic and the Southwestern Atlantic. There's some indication that that number 1 area may track to the west and northwest in the coming days, and maybe just increase rainfall prospects late next week if we can knock the hot ridge down over the Gulf Coast and the southeastern part of the country. We'll see what transpires. And then the Pacific, quieting, winding down, but still getting going across sections of Central America, west of there on a couple of tropical systems. But there too, things are quieting down. And over the next 7 days, that system will continue its track and probably to the west, northwest, and just help to throw moisture back northward in through the plains and Western Corn Belt. That is a good 10, 12, 15 days out from materializing. The next 7 days, there's the quarter. And again, all of it really is focused this weekend. Michigan, Illinois, Missouri, down through the lower Mississippi Valley and points east, northeast from there. You do see another shading of significance in the Pacific Northwest. The atmospheric river setup is getting going. It's not the El Nino driven Pineapple Express. This is more of something coming out of the Gulf of Alaska. We've got a big hole in the atmosphere, big upper low. Part of that was drawing in a former typhoon out of the Western Pacific into that circulation. So it's going to be wave after wave of drought easing moisture, high snow levels. So that brings the specter of maybe some runoff issues where we had areas that were burned out, debris slides, if you will, I think is what they call it. So we'll have to keep an eye on that in the coming week for some steady, regular rain. But when those winds come down the Rockies, they are dry, they are mild, and that's why the thinking going forward here that we have a nice big window of opportunity. A couple of cool snaps, a couple of showery spells. You can see that another reel. These systems are just moving lickety-split out of the Canadian Prairie Monday, Tuesday, kind of a closed low through the Great Lakes region. Sometimes with these warm waters. There have been a couple of graphics that have turned up on reliable social media channels that are painting Great Lakes water temperatures that are running 3 to 6 degrees above average. Just apart from global warming stuff, not getting into that topic, but it's just been a warm, dry season around the Great Lakes regions, and this happens. Well, so you got to keep an eye when you get the Arctic air intrusions, winter storms, whatever. That's a renewed extra moisture source, and whenever you get a cold enough air mass over these very warm waters, it'll be late in arriving snow and ice. Snowpack, if you will, an ice pack over the Great Lakes waters. But lake effect becomes a pretty impressive situation if you get the right setup going, as in enough cold air, and it won't take much cold air to get going. So we'll keep an eye on that. And from a more marginal Midwest, if you will, marginalized as in localized weather scenario going forward deeper into the fall and wintertime season. So that system blows through the Great Lakes region Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a little system in the desert southwest into the southern plains that will bring some rainfall over Dixie later next week. And then you get that arcing ridge. You get the trough in the northwest, the trough in the northeast, that Omega block. We've talked about that before. Looky here, maybe not quite the warmth. We're almost into November, but another window of opportunity for harvest will get going mid to late next week and beyond across the Corn Belt locales. And you can see those systems blowing by. The pressure lines are packed Tuesday, easing up by Wednesday. And there may be a little frost as far south as maybe parts of northern and central Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, maybe a morning or two of maybe mid-30s. Not unusual, right on target, if not late, for the first frost, but probably not killing frost in the parts of the central Corn Belt. Apart from that, just a series of systems in the Pacific Northwest with wave after wave of wet weather. Temperatures quickly here as we head on through this afternoon, upper 60s, 70s. There'll be some spots in central Illinois that'll be up around 80 this afternoon. A quick cool off expected west to east Sunday into Monday, upper 50s and low 60s over the Midwest. But you can see 70-degree air in the Nebraska Panhandle, and that warmth with the winds coming down the northern and central Rockies, that compressional warming begins to take place. We get another cool snap with that system coming through the Great Lakes Tuesday to Wednesday, but nothing far off normal. And then by almost a week from now, another big recovery, well into the 60s, pushing 70, and we are just about ready to get into November, at least the last week of October, through the Plain States areas. And for the trick-or-treaters, early estimate would be no cold air, nothing too rambunctious in the way of weather, at least as it applies to the Corn Belt areas come the 31st of October. Next 6 to 10 days, very much a zonal flow, west to east, a low amplitude flow, meaning you don't get the big waves, the troughs, the ridges like we talked about on that recent map, but you can see those winds are packed at the jet stream winds are probably at about 130, 140 knots up aloft jet airplane level, running from areas just south of Siberia into the Pacific Northwest. But if you were to be on an airplane, a jet airplane, and get to that flight level and be able to maintain stability with turbulence in mind, you could probably get from Siberia to, I don't know, Alaska or the west coast of the United States, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, a little bit overdone. But the factor is that it's going to be a strong jet stream pattern driving systems into California, the Pacific Northwest. But then they kind of loosen up. They come down the Rockies, and those dashed lines are red, warmer than average readings way up aloft. That compresses as well southward. And the bottom line is this scenario. Well, we're a bit normal. This is maybe a little bit overdone in the eastern states, but look at the warm up back west of the plains. If I were to put the 2-week forecast on, I didn't, because you can check it out on this weekend's TV show. The warmth is coming back into play in the Corn Belt areas relative to late October and into November. And the moisture as well, significant. Drought easing in the west, the southwest. Got to keep an eye on flood and mudslide and debris slide potential in the Pacific Northwest going forward here into next week and beyond. Our next half-hour live stream is on the 12th of November. We will basically focus on the waning weeks of autumn and certainly kind of adjust. And I don't think going from this vantage point, there'll be much to think about from a timing difference on winter time across the area. It'll be kind of a slow, protracted evolution from mild to wetter to warm, still wet, and we'll just ultimately get to mid-December of the holidays, and then the other Buddha and hoof will drop, and we'll talk about what transpires after that. So we still have weeks of opportunity. And again, as Sarah and I have been mentioned, if you're not done with stuff by Thanksgiving, don't call us. You were warned. Anyway, that's it from the weather office on a Friday there.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, it's quiet down this way, but I saw some pictures of what's going on up in Alaska. That's pretty pretty sad.
Yeah, yes, it is. And there'll be more issues up there and more wind-driven rain, snow, and everything kind of translating on southward. So, yeah, that typhoon did a number up there. What was left of it, same setup that we get once in a while in the Pacific, off the Pacific, or some of the stronger storms that went up the eastern seaboard. We had that subtropical storm. We had Sandy a few years ago. You get those two married up with a jet stream pattern, whether it's in the tropics or not, this time in the tropics, and Armageddon breaks out.
Exactly. So we'll have Greg back with us next Tuesday, and we'll check in and see if there's any change to the short-term forecast. And of course, if you want to watch the long-term outlook that we did here earlier this week, feedstuffs.com, Feedstuffs 365, and you'll find it down there in the archive section. So Greg, have a great weekend, and thank you for the update, and thank you all for joining us as well.
Take care.